Welcome back to Anime Needs Investors, Man podcast. I'm Grinchler, and with me is the Bonefish Wonder. Wooper. Anime Needs Investors, man. But I couldn't think of an E to go after that, so I just said E.
Okay.
It was meta, which means it's funny.
Okay.
This week, we're talking about One Punch 5, Fruits Basket 5, and Carole 4, as well as Planet Taste 15 and 16.
15.
15 and 16.
Yep. I'm sick.
Yes, he is. Sick of watching mediocre anime.
I guess there's that as well. Where are we starting?
Somewhere between enthusiasm and the doldrums, apparently.
I meant with which show?
Yeah, I know. Let's start with Carole.
Okay. Let's start with it.
All right, so
Go ahead.
I liked this episode.
Excuse me.
It was a bit of a diversion from the kind of regular episode structure. It was more goofy, and
Haven't all the episodes so far been kind of goofy?
not really.
The one where they, she lights the lyric sheets on fire in Erdogan's house, and all the sprinkler system goes off.
That's not goofy. That's dramatic. That's drama.
I suppose so.
And then there's the torturing of the tween pop star.
Oh yeah,
That's not goofy.
Didn't that happen in like the first, second, and third episodes though?
Basically,
she was constantly in that chair being probed by Mr. AI,
Mr. Roboto.
Oh, I don't think Angela showed up in this episode.
Nope, just the main four now.
Well, they had to push everybody off to the side to make room for Idea, or Idea, or however they say it. The director robot.
Yeah, this scam director robot.
Who just reminds me of QT from Space Dandy.
Did you see him watching Space Dandy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Watching a scene from Space Dandy with QT in it.
Yep.
I wonder if it was the same voice actor. Because
I don't know.
It probably was. I mean, they use Woolongs in this series, as they do in most Watanabe series.
Yep. I mean, they use Woolongs in Bebop, and that was, 20 years ago?
Yeah. So, I mean, he likes callbacks, so I figure they probably use the same voice actor. Although, I mean, my last run through, when we watched it together for
was English.
Yeah, I watched the dub, even though I watched it sub the first time. I mean, my guess is that it was the same dude, but
I don't remember. It's been a while since I've seen the sub. But I liked this episode. It was goofy. It wasn't too serious. I mean, there were a couple parts, with Gus's ex-wife, and just like
the bisexual
woman.
Makeup wonder,
right? As everybody who's in the fashion industry is either gay or bi.
Sure. I mean, when I say makeup woman, I mean she's a makeup artist.
Yeah.
And she is something of a wonder, I guess, because she's like, he contacts her and is expecting her to have all the answers for this problem of how they get all the ingredients for this ridiculous music video they want to do.
Yep.
And she's like, my services don't come cheap.
Thriller with giant robots.
Yeah, it is. It is Thriller. It's Thriller meets Take on Me.
Oh, really?
Did you see that little like 1 second scene in the completed music video where there was a door that was replaced by like a sketched pencil door? That's like Take on Me, the music video.
I don't think I've ever seen the music video for that song.
Oh, it's a guy going into like the 2-dimensional world.
Oh,
through a door and becoming a pencil drawing himself. Yeah, it's Thriller, Take on Me. Whatever music video has a bunch of robots versus zombies. I'm sure that's a lot at this point.
I don't know. Just is this what Japanese music videos are like?
I don't know. I mean, I know their commercials are crazy.
Yeah.
Morning rescue.
That's a reference one of our viewers might get.
Well, you're always referencing some shit that I don't understand, so.
That's fair.
The only people who are going to understand the morning lescue thing are, well, I don't know if anyone will, but if you know, you know.
If you don't know, now you know because he told you. Friendo.
Sure. So you like this episode because it was less. I mean, but you say it's because it's less serious, and I don't.
It's not. I don't think it's because it's less serious. I just thought that overall the tone was more lighthearted compared to some of the scenes in the rest of the show.
I'd say that's true.
It's goofy. They buy a relatively cheap robot. I mean, if you remember when they went to the pizza place, the bill was like 43 woolongs. This robot was 19. How cheap are robots in the future?
Did you notice that when Roddy showed them the robot on his phone, it had a 1-star review?
No, I didn't.
There were 5 stars and only 1 was filled in. So that was foreshadowing right there that it was going to be lousy.
I didn't see that, but I knew it would be just based on the price. It's like when you buy a cheap Chinese knockoff of something, and then it sucks.
Yep.
Except this one just sits in your house and drinks all your beer.
Right.
And makes fun of your pet owl.
Yeah, the little war that the two of them got into was pretty funny. But it was only shortly after he starts to blackmail the owl that he gets found out. That scene where he's like taking a bath or something.
Yeah, I don't.
Do you remember that scene where he's in the? Is it? I watched this a few days ago, so I don't remember perfectly. But isn't the robot like in the tub or something?
Yeah,
that doesn't make any sense to me. Like, wouldn't he short circuit or?
Gotta clean it. What if he's waterproof?
I guess so. I guess he could be.
Well, what if he's Watanabe proof?
Moving right along. He doesn't get a chance to really like get in deep again versus the owl.
No, because he's swiftly returned.
Yeah.
After his
when he's like pleading, "Don't put me back in the box."
What's in the box?
There's one of those references I don't get.
What?
So anyway,
you uncultured swine.
One of my favorite things about this episode was the scene where they're going around the table, so to speak, and pitching ideas for the music video. You know, it'll be like a shot straight on of one of the characters, then the camera swivels, another shot of the characters. Really, some really expressive character animation there. Like, for example, when Tuesday is doing the Thriller dance, or Carole, upon hearing what the robot is capable of doing, like that it can create a recipe for the exact music video they want just by listening to their ideas. She goes like, "Sugoi!" and throws her arms out to her sides. It was really nicely animated.
Yeah, it's a good looking show.
And when she does that, you know, when she sweeps out her arms, Jiggy, the owl, is sitting on one of her arms. So it kind of gets, you know, dislodged from its perch. And that starts its hatred of Idea.
The rivalry begins.
Yeah, I would have loved to see more of their like if the robot somehow became a recurring character and the two pets, you know, or mascots, whatever you want to call them, were like doing a Tom and Jerry sort of thing as a runner in the background of the series. I think that'd be pretty funny.
Well, there's probably thousands of those robots, so.
Yeah, but I mean, given how much intelligence, artificial intelligence, and personality they have, it wouldn't work if they just got a new one all the time. It would need to get the same one. Like, I think that'd be really funny if, despite him being shipped back, like he found his way back to their apartment, and that you could even like do a horror episode, you know, kind of a riff on the idea of like a doll that keeps returning to your room with a knife. Only it's the robot
that fits in the theme of this show.
Well, that's the thing, is that I don't really care that much about the two girls wanting to become pop stars. To me, that's already boring.
Then why are you watching this?
It's a Watanabe production. Don't you think that they're two of the least interesting characters in the series? Think about what they did in this episode. They were just like, I want this music video. I want this music video. And then they became actors in the music video. Like, they practically had bit parts. compared to Gus, his wife, and even Roddy, who's like disappointment at his, he has like a robot, that's.
Yeah, it's like a mecha action figure.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be like a limited edition collector's item worth a lot, something like that.
Yeah.
His disappointment, his heartbreak when that robot is destroyed is like more significant to me than anything that.
And when Egerton's car blows up.
Yeah.
That too.
Yeah, but I mean, to me, the girls were basically background singers in this episode.
Yeah, they were. I mean, the focus wasn't too heavily on them. I think this episode was more so about Gus.
Yeah.
Because, we learned about his ex-wife, and we saw a picture of him when he was younger. And
oh, yeah. That's right.
Have you put on even more weight since the last time I saw you?
But I mean, I think that this issue with the girls not having the strongest characterization extends beyond even this episode. And perhaps one of the reasons for that is the show's reliance on montage. I think in every episode there's been at least one montage where the girls are, writing a song or shooting a music video or, running away from a security guard or something. The show is constantly giving a shorthand for their experiences. We know a little bit about their pasts. We know that Carole comes from Tuesday. Wait, which is which? Tuesday is the black girl.
No.
Oh,
Tuesday has the weird name. The rich girl has the weird name.
Okay.
Carole is normal.
All right. We know that Carole, she was raised in an orphanage and she stuck up for herself. We see that flashback when she sees the blue butterfly. Remember when she gets that job as like a mourner?
Yeah.
We see that part of her backstory. And then we know that Tuesday is, she comes from a rich family. She ran away from home and her mom's running for president. Or whatever. But I don't know. I don't feel as though I know much about them. Like, at least not as pertains to their current quest for fame. So that's an issue that I have with the show. Maybe the number one issue.
So the plot, basically, is your problem.
I guess, but I don't need it to be super plot heavy. I would just like there to be more reason for me to root for them. I guess, other than that, they're the main characters. And they had a viral hit.
Maybe Watanabe is trying to appeal to people that don't like the direction the music industry is going, which is why you should love this show.
What? I mean, I'm gonna judge it based on what I see, regardless of how I feel about the music industry. Like how the show is compiled, how it's put together, and what it does with its characters.
That was a joke.
Okay, well.
Next time I will use a less subtle verbal cue.
Gotcha. All right, well, I mean, I thought this episode was fine, I guess.
I liked it.
But
I thought it was goofy and fun. I smiled and laughed during this episode rather than the other two shows we watched where I kind of just sat there and absorbed images and sound.
Speaking of absorbing images and sound...
Segue.
Yeah. Do you want to do Fruits Basket or One Punch Man?
Sure, let's do Confessions of a Teenage House Hopper. Or what did I put it down as Extreme Home Makeover, I think, was this episode. Yeah.
Right. I guess it is that. Although not for long because she does go back to the Somas. We actually see that happen.
Yes.
We actually see her go back to the house.
Yes. At the end of the episode.
Okay. I've already forgotten. I mean, I remember that she got all weepy and was like, I shouldn't be ungrateful, and I shouldn't think of the Soma house as my home, but I do.
Yep.
Many tears were shed.
And she only had to go through the whole thing twice because we saw it from her perspective, and then we saw it from another perspective.
Right.
That was a good use of time.
I mean, I didn't think it was bad.
That doesn't mean it was good, though. Just because something isn't bad doesn't make it good. It can just be eh.
I suppose that's true.
So that was really the meat and potatoes of this whole episode. Toru goes back. Toru leaves. She doesn't want to leave. The guys don't want her to leave.
But none of them say anything.
Yeah, but none of them say anything. She goes and then is encouraged by her grandfather to just be like, you should be happy. Just speak your mind, dumb girl, who I still think is my daughter.
Right.
It's like, you shouldn't have to be around people who don't like you.
Well, he calls that woman and her son, that's her aunt and cousin, right? That woman is another one of his children.
Something like that.
Yeah,
and they're relatives.
Yeah. When he slapped the kid who wants to be a detective, I was like, what a baller.
What an OG son.
Oh my God, dude. OG-san and OG-san.
Yeah.
You just blew my mind.
Yep.
That's a top tier pun. I can't believe I've never seen an anime make use of that.
We're making waves here on the Anime Podcast.
Sure. I mean, yeah, I guess that is the bulk of the episode, is just showing the same events twice.
From Toru's perspective, how she doesn't want to, like, she goes back, but she doesn't want to, but she doesn't want to complain. She feels like she should be grateful for whatever circumstance she's in. And the grandfather's basically just, it's okay to want things that you want.
Well, he's echoing her mother. We see a flashback to her mother saying it's okay to be discouraged or selfish or to have like desires. So for her to want to stay with the people whom she just met and like formed a bond with, that would be her desire.
Right.
And the old man, says the same thing. And then later, Kyo, the cat, says the same thing to her again after they've already left. So that's what causes all the emotion in her character, I think, is people like reminding her of her mother, who is dead. So obviously that would be somewhat emotional.
I'm just imagining that MLG sad music.
All right.
Because it's sad.
Yeah, it was sad.
It's we have a tragic character, guys, and now she's crying.
She is a tragic character. So last week you mentioned that you were into this show originally because it was a drama. So we got a pretty dramatic episode in this one. Still not pleased with it?
No, it's definitely more serious. This episode, less like wacky and people helicoptering, but I understand seeing it from both perspectives, but I feel like they could have cut different parts. Like they could have shown part of what Toru said or what Honda said from her perspective and the other part of what she said from the Soma's perspective, rather than doing quite literally the same thing twice.
Yeah, that's true. Right before the commercial break, we see that Yuki, like, she's said her whole piece about how she really considers the Soma family to be her home. And Yuki comes in and he's like, everything's all sparkly.
Yep.
And he says, I can't remember exactly what he says, but he says essentially, oh, if that's the way you feel, then come with us.
It's like, then let's go home.
Yeah, sure.
But in a squeaky rat-like voice.
Yeah, and then we do get the rewind after that, and we see all the events over again. It might, yeah, you're right. I think that's a good idea. If we hadn't seen Yuki come in, or we hadn't gotten all of Toru's like confession, if it had been kind of left up in the air, and then we hear her true thoughts when the brothers are eavesdropping, that might have been nice. From like a sequencing point of view. But the thing is that the reason to me that it works with two different points of view on the same episode comes from a line of dialogue between the two brothers where Yuki says to Kyo, like, it's not our choice. We shouldn't just barge in and like, bring her back home.
And he does exactly that.
Well, they do, but only after
she's like, that's where I want to be.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So hearing her say it, and then we do need to get the brothers hearing her say that, so that when they barge in, it's not kidnapping.
Right.
Or it's not like they're going to make her into their like live-in maid.
Right. Even though
waifu.
Kyo literally drags her out of the house by her arm.
Right. Yeah. But at least they waited until she said she wanted it.
And that makes it okay. Air horns.
Yeah, I think for that reason it was okay that we saw the same events twice, but yeah, it might have been cool if that had not been the case.
And that's the episode.
No, there's one more really important thing that we ought to discuss probably, and that's where the title of the show comes from.
Oh yeah, the kindergarten thing where they're playing a game called Fruits Basket.
Yeah.
And she's the rice ball.
Yeah, everyone gets labeled with the name of a different fruit. When your fruit name is called, something happens. People get up from their chairs and run around, or I don't know the rules of the game, but
yeah, it seemed kind of nonsensical. Apples.
Oh, I'm sure.
Children screaming.
I have to imagine that like this is a game that Japanese children actually play.
Well, maybe they do now, but it's been written.
Well, there were no rules laid out in this episode, so
that's a question for the Google machine.
I don't know. I kind of get the sense that it's based on a real game. That way, her feeling of exclusion would achieve like maximum poignancy. Because she does feel excluded. Like she's labeled the rice ball instead of
an actual fruit.
Yeah,
and she's like, "But I like rice balls."
Yeah, the kids are picking on her. But it turns out in the end that they would call her name. They would call rice ball in the game, but we only see that after she's admitted where she wants to be, like what she considers home, and after the brothers have come to retrieve her.
Right, and it shows the brothers having called rice ball, not the kids in the class.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's the two of them standing in front of her in like a really long dramatic shot where they're really far away from each other, and there's like lighting up the brothers and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So it wasn't actually the class that called her. It was a metaphor for like them wanting her to live with them. She's being picked by her peers to be like the popular one, or the one that they want to be included.
Right.
So
okay.
Metaphors, man.
Yeah, I mean the title of the show, Fruits Basket, is an unpleasant memory for her. That she used to play that game as a child and was excluded. But now, perhaps she feels included because she's found a place that she really wants to be. So I think
she probably makes dank rice balls.
Probably so. I think and that's the thing. She was given the name rice ball, and then she does make onigiri for the guys at the house.
Is a rice ball actually just a ball of rice?
Well, it can have fillings, like dried plums or whatever else. I don't know.
Right. So you can put stuff in it, but like
there's also that little,
that's this strip of seaweed, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like a little half seaweed wrap.
Yep.
Yeah. But it is mostly rice. Then you got the filling in the seaweed.
That's such a nutritious food.
Yeah.
White rice with salt wrap.
Why do you think them Japanese live so long?
Because it's all the salt they eat? Just a preservative?
Maybe.
I don't know, man.
I think it's interesting that the title of the show is Fruits Basket.
Yeah. I don't know if they're going to go too much more heavily into the whole, like the title of the show. Like Rising of the Shield Hero. Shield Hero, it's title of the show, in the show, pretty simple. But sometimes the title of a show like almost never shows up. Like Space Dandy is a dandy guy in space. Carole Tuesday is the name of the main characters. One Punch Man's the main character, but Fruits Basket was an event in Toru's life.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to guess, I would say that just because she's going back to live with the Somas doesn't mean that she's found home. Because her home has been ripped away from her. Her home was her mother.
Right.
And now that her mother has passed on,
home is where the heart is.
She's she's continually searching for a place to belong. Like just because she's come back with the guys doesn't mean that her heartache is going to be cured.
And in the next episode, her friends come over to visit.
Oh, did you watch the next episode preview?
No, just all they do is like a title. And some.
What was the title? Was it indicative of that happening?
The voiceover was her friends saying that they should go over to the house sometime.
Oh, well, one of them is going to end up smitten with one of the other characters. Isn't the blonde girl is already kind of into Kyo, right? The blonde girl being the delinquent.
Yeah, probably.
I kind of got that from episode 3.
Because he like jumps out of windows and
he's just
slams people's face into floors.
He's just weird, he's kind of like
he's a delinquent just like her.
Yeah, kind of. Well, he's an outlier at the very least. He doesn't behave the same way as everyone else, so she might be into that. All right. We ready for One Punch Man?
We are ready for
One Frame Man.
Yes.
I think you said that last week.
Something like that.
Excuse me. God, I'm sorry. I'm sick, everybody.
Yeah, you're talking real quiet.
Hey, man, you're the audio engineer, so I'm sure you'll fix it right up in post.
Yes.
Or just don't. I can just have a quiet voice in this one. You already master it like really loud to begin with.
Yeah.
All right. So in this episode. Okay, why? Here's my question. Why was it just not all about the tournament? The title of the episode was The Martial Arts Tournament, was it not?
Yes. It was literally the martial arts tournament, and there was one round of the martial arts tournament that took 4 frames to finish.
Yeah, well, he just punches man.
He slaps him.
He hits him with one punch. You might say
one slap. It doesn't roll off the tongue as well as One Punch Man, though.
Yeah, I was really looking forward to them just like taking the ever-loving piss out of concept of like tournament arcs and stuff, because those are stupid.
Tournament arcs.
Gotcha.
Tournament arcs are dumb.
Gotcha there.
Rock Lee versus Garo wasn't hype.
I mean, it was pretty cool.
It's true.
I could admit that. But I mean, Saitama's so much stronger than everybody else that he's naturally going to just win the tournament. The only obstacle in his way is the Star Jacket man. I think his name is Siryu.
Something like that.
And he was a previous champion, like a 4-time running champion in the past.
Until he stopped to like
do some other shit.
Do something else. Don't know.
Yeah. Oh my God, my mic is all the way down here. I wonder if it's been catching my voice at all.
Well, yes, just not very much.
All right, we're back. So I was just disappointed because it didn't focus on the tournament very much. Still a bunch of stuff going on with Metal Bat versus Garo and some other random heroes and, monsters that we like. There's a Phoenix guy who is apparently a human in a costume because he sticks out his hand. He
sticks his hand out to give the pamphlet to Garo.
Yeah, I don't know what I was supposed to think of that. It just seemed very strange to me.
I think it's supposed to be like a dude in a costume.
Yeah, I mean it is. It's demonstrably a dude in a costume. He extended
demonstrably.
He extended his hand, his human hand from within the costume. But he can fly as well, so he probably has some sort of. I mean, maybe he's hiding himself like that because he's actually a hero, and he needs a costume to.
Who knows? We learn there's a Monsters Association, apparently.
Yeah, but they also say something along the lines of, "Oh, that was just bait." Not necessarily the concept of the Monster Association, but like giving the note to Garo.
The invitation itself. Yeah.
It was like a misdirect or I don't know. I didn't get the meaning of that line too clearly. I imagine there is a Monster Association just because that seems like a very shonen thing to do. Like in Hero Academia, there's the League of Villains and stuff.
Every villain is Lemons, otherwise known as evil.
Right, that sort of thing. Even SpongeBob does it, so why wouldn't One Punch Man?
The ultimate shonen.
Yeah, SpongeBob is the ultimate anime. That'd definitely be on my top 25 list.
That fight scene between SpongeBob and Patrick outside the salty spittoon was nuts. It's like
SpongeBob and Patrick fight in that episode?
Yeah.
Oh, they fake the fight, right? Yeah.
Welcome to the Salty Spittoon. How tough are you?
That's right. I do remember that now. Anyway, so we learn about the Phoenix and the Monster Association, and the monsters are like attacking every city.
Yeah, they're just showing up absolutely everywhere.
But they get called off by the Phoenix guy, who's like, today is not the promised day.
It's like, we got what we came for. Let's get out of here.
But what did they come for?
Hostages.
Hostages?
They grabbed the kid.
Oh, yes.
From like the executives.
Yeah, the executive's son.
As well as, I mean, they probably got other people from across all the different cities, A through, I guess, Z.
Yeah.
A through A, B.
Perhaps they're named after blood types.
Well, I meant A, B as in like they went through Z, and so they just added another letter and kept going just because they're really lazy.
Yeah. Maybe so.
Maybe.
I thought this episode was boring and dumb.
Yeah, I wasn't entertained. I wasn't entertained like at all. The fights were lame.
Yeah, dude. They basically were. I mean, the same problem from last week cropped back up where you have a character who's attacking extremely rapidly, but it's not really depicted on screen.
It looks
like a bunch
like
of rapid attacks. It's just a bunch of blurry shit.
It's blurry and gross.
With a bunch of ting, 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 ting sound effects and the frame kind of jiggling on screen a little bit.
It actually looks like they're playing 3 frames on top of each other at once.
Yeah.
Like, that's probably what they're doing.
Yeah.
But it just looks... I hate it so much.
Yeah, it's not great. Yeah, it's true. They are smearing frames like that.
Is that like common now?
I don't know. It might be. I don't typically see it in a lot of the anime that I watch, but try not to watch shit. So,
well, we're watching this.
Hey, one shit man. I don't know.
You just poop once a year.
It's fine. I'll keep watching. I mean, the episode to me went by pretty quickly, so it's not as though I was like dreading every second of it. You know, when the credits started to creep down the screen at the end, I was like, oh wow, it's over.
Yeah,
not necessarily the greatest feeling.
I knew the credits were about to come, and I was like, they're gonna end the episode here, aren't they?
What was the ending?
Hey, credits.
I can't remember what the ending was.
Saitama wins the fight, and the dude's like, this will be interesting, and then it just cuts away. That's it.
Oh, this will be interesting?
Yeah, or just be like, I know who I'm facing in the finals. Or something.
Yeah, it felt like a bit of an anticlimactic ending to me. Probably because they named
it the
martial arts tournament.
The martial arts tournament.
Well, even aside from that, everything to do with the tournament was like,
4 minutes of character introductions, none of which who really matter.
Yeah, there were a lot of fighters introduced for no purpose.
And all with like original designs and everything like that.
They're mostly just bracket fodder. Yeah, I don't know why that sort of thing is necessary, but that's not a problem exclusive to One Punch Man, if we're being honest. Yeah, but I mean, the reason that was an anticlimax for me was because if you split up this episode into 3 sections, let's say Metal Bat versus Garo, Heroes versus Villains, or Heroes versus Monsters, and Martial Arts Tournament.
Right.
They ended on the Martial Arts Tournament, which receives the least attention of those 3.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem like the way forward. But hey, you know what? Maybe now that the monsters have retreated, they've withdrawn with their hostages or whatever other objectives they accomplished with this fight.
Right.
Maybe now that they've withdrawn, we'll actually get a martial arts tournament episode.
Maybe that's the joke. They titled it a martial arts tournament, and then nothing happened. And the next episode is going to be titled. It's going to have nothing to do with the martial arts tournament, and it's only going to be the martial arts tournament.
Damn.
Just as to maybe to make a play on how sometimes a fight in another show will last like 9 episodes. So it's like blank versus blank 1 through 9, or the episode titles will be completely misleading and terrible.
I think you're going out on a pretty thin limb there.
That's not a thin limb. I'm hanging onto a leaf.
Well,
but I don't know. That'd be the most meta thing ever.
Hey. Yep. I really don't have any. Oh yeah, Garo stops fighting Metalbad because his little sister shows up.
Yeah.
And he's
like, I've got something else to do anyways.
He likes kids, so he's not a totally bad guy. That's 10 out of 10 characterization right there.
Yep.
He also loves, or he doesn't love, but he also befriends that kid with the butt chin and the bowl cut with the hero
book,
the hero appendix, whatever it is. That just seems to be the angle, is that he won't hurt innocent children. So he must be a good dude.
But you're not really bad guy.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Not really a fan of his. Garo's like he wants to be a monster. And why? For what purpose? Just because
when he was a kid and he watched TV, he wanted the monsters to win.
Yeah, but why? Because
he's a comic book villain.
Yeah, well, he seems to have the motivation of one.
I don't know. I think comic book villains are a little better than that.
Maybe.
Anyways, so that was unfortunately One Punch Man. Oh yeah, and Bang and Bomb are looking for Garo.
Right. Yeah, when Bang defeats one of the monsters, like some kind of gorilla or something. There were like 3 gorillas in this episode.
It was
some kind of monkey.
It was a boxer. He had 4 arms.
Oh yeah, a boxer, monkey,
Machamp.
Something. Yeah, I thought the same thing.
Yeah.
That's the part of the episode that I had the biggest issue with, like the smeared frames, or overlapped, whatever the term is. Like when he does his flowing fist of water crushing a rock, whatever,
and it just hits him a bunch of times.
Yeah, it doesn't look smooth, man. It doesn't look like flowing water.
No, it looks like cost cutting.
Well,
I think a still frame would have looked better.
Yeah, I agree.
Like a really well drawn still frame would have looked better than that.
In this particular case, I agree. But this season has already done the flowing whatever fist of carbonation just fine. When Garo, I think in the previous episode,
episode 3, when Garo does it against the tank top dudes. Yeah.
Yeah, he kind of weaves through them. We go into the bullet time, the Matrix, and he's just zipping through them, and the little blue trail is following behind him,
hands.
And then eventually catches up to him. I think that looked fine, and it wasn't very impressive, but it doesn't have to be. You just need to convey the martial art in whatever way you can. If you don't have the ability to do it in a Shingo Natsume Madhouse sort of way, then just do it in a different way rather than whatever it is you got going on right now.
Was Shingo Natsume the director of the first season, or is he like a specific animator?
He's the director of season 1.
I wonder how he feels about this.
I'm sure he's been. He directed Boogie Pop Phantom earlier this year, and I'm sure he has something else lined up. So I doubt that he cares too much. He's a working stiff, same as everybody else.
You don't think he watches any anime? I guess if you work in it, you probably don't watch much, or you watch way too much.
Well, that's the thing about like American actors. They say, "Oh, I don't really watch movies or TV shows. I'm just I'm in them, so." Why do I have to watch them, But I think for animators and directors and just people who work in the anime industry in general, most of them are like otaku, I feel.
Otherwise, why would you get into it in the first place?
Yeah, kind of.
It's not a lucrative business.
I'm probably making an overgeneralization here, but yeah, I feel as though a lot of the people who get into it are directly inspired by anime. There are probably some exceptions, but
I think directors probably watch a bunch of movies and writers and stuff, but I guess actors, it's a lot different.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Live action and anime are just so different.
Yeah.
No, you can't really compare them. All right, moving on.
Unless it's a live action anime like Dimension High School. So sad we didn't pick that
It was
up.
my favorite anime.
Yep.
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10 raspberries.
Mentions.
Now we're on to...
Oh my God, is this podcast over yet?
Nope.
What time we got?
40.
Oh, you might be able to get done in less than an hour.
We got Planet Taste 15 and 16. So let's go in order.
All right.
15 is Hachi and Tanabe's first actual date.
First dato.
Dato?
Yep, and it's just as awkward as you might expect.
Yeah, I like that. I like that it wasn't
crashed
just
by
like
Chang Shin.
It wasn't just like instant like anime romance where you meet someone and then immediately afterwards it's just like
having babies.
Basically. But romances in anime are generally pretty crap or unrealistic at the very least.
I mean, you haven't seen that much anime. Let us be realty.
Let us be royalty.
There's plenty of good ones. In fact, you even ranked the best romance anime in recent years dead last in one of our seasonal previews.
Oh, what, After the Rain?
Yeah.
I have to give that another shot.
Well, you don't have to do anything. You can just live with your wrongness if you like.
I mean, I live with my wrongness every day. I exist. So that's, I got to live with that.
Me too, man. Me too.
Real shit.
Yes, this episode was very romance heavy and it was cool.
Yeah, I like the portrayal of the awkward first date because I've definitely had those. And it's exactly like that. You're just like, all right, what the fuck do we talk about? Because you're so used to
having sex.
Because you're so used to like having an outside influence kind of dictate the conversation. Then when you remove all of that and it's just both of you, you have no idea what to talk about at first.
Right.
So I thought that was funny. They kept running into people, which at first I thought, oh, that's a coincidence. And then they just like, this is the only recreational place on the entire station. Of course you're going to run into people. And it's like, right. Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. The promenade, they called it.
Yeah. The promenade is like in space stations, like the big
what?
The big fancy area. Like
so is that a term that's used by space agencies?
Lots of other sci-fis.
Okay.
Like the promenade is like the big fancy area where everyone goes and stuff. So, yeah. But this episode definitely focused more than just on them.
I told you the temp worker was going to get an episode.
Yeah, you did. Well, you've seen this show before.
I knew it. Yeah, but I forgot.
Of course you did. Yeah, we got Edel's...
AKA Hourglass, AKA temp working girl.
Temp worker who's...
No pun intended when I say working girl. She used to be a prostitute.
Yep, but it wasn't her choice because...
It was tragic. She was tragically... I mean, I guess all prostitution, or rather the lives that prostitutes lead are tragic, can be tragic.
Can be, yeah.
I'm really backpedaling hard here.
Yeah.
But hers definitely was.
Yes.
She was manipulated by her husband, who was her pimp.
Yeah.
Which is terrible. And the one thing, the bit about the episode that I liked the most probably was the way that her confession, like that she always picked the worst Johns. She was like electrocuted and she was forced to get piercings everywhere. I really like how that colored the earlier exchange between her and Tanabe
when she's like, that's a tongue piercing. Yeah,
and she says it wouldn't look good on you.
Yeah.
You know, Tanabe upon hearing that is flustered, I guess, or displeased. But you got to realize that when a woman who has been like nearly tortured like with in relation to her piercings, when she says that wouldn't look good on you, it's coming from a different place than just like sniping or vanity or anything like that. So I thought that was pretty cool. Good little bit of writing there. Yeah, it was just really shitty what happened to her.
Well, the dude's been arrested.
Yeah.
Thanks, convenient Into.
No, that was the OSA.
Oh, well, OSA is Into.
No, they're not.
They hand them over to Into.
Yeah, but they're not into. Isn't there, like, during the meeting between Gigalt, the head of the OSA, and Hakeem and the other guys, isn't there, like, doesn't Gigalt make some sort of order like we can't go above Into's head on this?
Right, they kind of work for them, it seems.
I don't know if they're like a division of Into. Maybe they are, but I don't think so. Not really.
They hand over all their criminals to him, so it's same thing, really. Either way, without getting too heavy into space politics that we literally don't have enough information to explain properly on.
Right.
They've arrested a bunch of people for... it's not explained why they were after them.
Right. Yeah, that's one of the things about this episode that was most disappointing to me was not only do we not know what those three were doing on board 7, which is where they are, knowing that when they're in Into's jurisdiction, the penalty would be... I mean, that's the thing that makes me think that the OSA doesn't work under Into, is that when the OSA nabs them in Into's jurisdiction, the penalty is less severe than if they had been elsewhere. But in any case, it's not explained why they're on 7. You're right. And to me, that's like a black mark on the episode because, I mean, we don't even know the relationship between Sasha, the dude with the cross pendant, and the other two. I mean, the three of them are put up on screen during the OSA meeting.
Right.
So their goals are probably related. But the only thing we get about Sasha's character is that he's come back to try to strike things up with what's her face
Edel.
again? Yeah.
I have a feeling we haven't seen the last of them.
Those three?
Yeah.
I mean, okay. What makes you think that?
The fact that all three of them are focused on, rather than, Edel's husband having come back and like that happened, and then that he runs out and gives chase and then runs into the OSA guy, where the OSA guys are specifically looking for him. Maybe we're not given the information on why they're being looked for some other reason. Maybe they're just we weren't told in order to obscure a future event in the show.
So do you think they're related to the SDF, Space Defense Force, or whatever it's called? The terrorist organization that's been cropping up?
I think that's the most likely scenario, is that.
I mean, why wouldn't that be mentioned?
I don't know. I have a feeling. I can't explain it very well, but it's there.
Right. Well, I mean, I don't even know if I necessarily want them to recur because they were, written so poorly in this episode, or just, not given any backstory, any fleshing out, any detail. I don't know if making them come back and then serve a greater purpose would really rescue their characters for me. But, I guess we'll just wait and see on that. My other gripe with this episode is that the setup appears to be too close to that of episode 5, which I believe is the one where there's the guy who grabs the kid on board when they're flying to the moon.
Right.
Where it just seems to be kind of like a comedy of errors, where there's the people who are shooting the porno, and then there's the parents who are like,
okay,
we have to kill our kids and
suicide.
ourselves. And then there's also the guy who I can't remember his goal exactly.
Where this one, it's
similar because they're all like confined to the promenade. It's also happening in tight quarters, the same way that episode 5 did. So everything just feels
Isn't everything in space in tight quarters though? There aren't exactly open air or like large open areas in a space station.
When I say tight quarters, I mean that all the events are happening like in a small space. Like in terms of the scripting, everything's happening in just like one area.
Like Tanabe and Hachi go to
promenade.
The room specifically where the other two are meeting.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, like their date is kind of hijacked by Lucy, who is like, you got to go to this hotel. And then once they're in the hotel, they stumble upon Sasha. And then, of course, Sasha sent an email to Edel, who also comes to the hotel room. And then, Claire is also there, and she encounters the two other gunmen on the promenade because she is sitting around sipping a drink because she saw Hachi go into the hotel with Tanabe. Like, it's like all revolving around one very small
area.
core.
Right. It's all revolving around the most popular place in the station.
Right. Well, I mean, I feel as though the show has already done that once before with episode 5.
Right.
That same sort of miniature feeling.
Yeah, it was in a spaceship rather than on a space station.
Yeah, but I'm not so much focused on the actual like physical location. It's just the feeling of it being kind of compact that I feel they duplicated with this episode rather than innovated.
It'd be difficult to set up that many things to happen and have it seem organic, though.
Right. So to me, the solution is don't do it at all. Especially not having done it once before.
But if that's the story you want to tell, and you have a limited amount of time and a limited amount of story space, then I didn't have a problem with it. Well, it's just it's a series of coincidences. Isn't every single show the exact same thing?
Well, if you zoom back even further, every single show is just a script. That is.
And a script is just words, which is just language, which is a construct of man. No, what does it mean?
What I'm saying is that you said if that's the story you want to tell, then you have to cram it down into that amount of time. But you get to choose what story you want to tell. And if you're adapting from a manga, you get to choose how you adapt. You don't have to take a chapter or an arc or what have you.
Well, what if you
compress it into a certain time frame? But you don't.
What if that was part of the agreement?
Well, yeah, there may be somewhat like there may be like anime politics that we don't know about, so to speak. Like they have to adapt a certain amount of material in order to placate the author of the source.
Didn't that happen in the show about animating a show?
Shirobako?
Yeah. Where they met with the guy who wrote the manga that they were going to adapt.
Yeah, and he was like displeased, but he wouldn't say so it had to come through his
right, and they had to like recut episodes and stuff like that because of it.
Yeah. But eventually wasn't there a scene between he and the director?
Right.
Where the director like kind of they're on the same page in terms of their visions.
Right. It was just the middleman who was trying to control everything.
Right.
Yeah. So
stuff like that probably does happen. So yeah, maybe we're really talking about the production side of things, I guess, more than the episode itself right now. But it's possible that there were chapters they had to adapt or what have you.
I still thought the episode was good.
I thought it was okay, but I would have preferred for Edel's backstory to come through
for it to develop more organically, like.
No, I'm fine with it being kind of sprung on us. Sorry, I'm fine with it kind of being sprung on us like that because, I mean, if we're being real, that's the only way that sort of information would come out.
Yeah,
is in a situation.
Nobody volunteers that information.
Yeah, it was only in a situation where there's like a lot of mutual trust, or else like a very emotional, kind of elevated scene.
Right.
Also, Gigalt suffers some sort of space-related attack.
Right.
Some sort of heart attack or something. We already know that he's sick. We found that out after.
It's probably just something having to do with his
radiation
cancer.
Sickness. Yeah.
You know how you say cancer in Spanish?
Oh.
El cancer.
Just cancer.
It's so terrible they haven't thought of another word for it yet.
Well, I mean, it might have been discovered by Americans or by another Western nation. Since it's a sickness, it's like a medical term, they would just adopt it.
It's a line from Deadpool, but yeah.
Okay, well, easily explained away.
Just like when in World War I, when the British first used tanks, the German word for tank was tank, because they hadn't thought of one yet. But by World War II, the word was Panzer.
Girls und
Panzer, which if they had never changed it, would have just been Girls und Tank, or whatever the Japanese word for tank is, if there is one.
Seisha?
Mm-hmm. Why isn't it Girls und Seisha? Because they're driving a Panzer IV?
I guess. That show there's a lot of multiculturality in that show.
Well, yeah, because one of the ships is Russian.
Yeah, I mean, all the different schools that they face have different nationalities.
Right. Anyways, we're getting way off topic.
Yeah, let's go to episode 16.
Episode 16 is all about psychological warfare.
I suppose man versus man.
Man versus self, isn't it?
I would say man versus man is what you would call that.
Well, no, man versus man implies another person. Man versus self is an internal conflict, which is what Hachi has.
Yes. Agreed. Yeah, it is all about that. But I think we were given a couple interesting tidbits in this episode about Hachi's backstory that were not made totally clear. So I have some theories that are brewing in the old kettle up here.
Got some no, I'm not going to say that.
All right. Well, how'd you feel about this episode?
It was definitely it was less straightforward, and the episode was trying to deal with It's trying to deal with just kind of the internal struggles that all of us deal with. But for Hachi, it was triggered by a near-death experience.
Right.
And so
which we get at the very beginning of the episode. We're just like launched right into it.
Yeah. He's disconnected from
the toy box,
from the fishbone. While they're out on a mission, a huge solar flare comes up and shuts down comms and everything else.
Right.
And they manage to retrieve him, and he doesn't suffer any radiation.
Yeah, because he's in the Van Allen belt or something along those lines.
The Van Allen.
Nice that they had a scientific explanation for him. Yeah, it might have been Van Buren. I don't know. Although I could just be mixing up my presidents with my asteroids.
I don't know.
Martin Van Buren.
Right.
Know what I'm saying?
Don't remember him in history class. Must not have mattered.
He mattered a hell of a lot more than either of us.
That's true.
Let's be real.
Let's be realty.
Yeah, so Hachi develops spatial loss disorder. Or does he? I
mean, yes.
I think he's been struggling with it his whole life.
And this just kind of triggered it.
Yes. Because there's a specific line of dialogue between Hachi and his shadow self, who he encounters multiple times during these Eva pilot tests.
Right, the sensory deprivation test.
Yes, exactly.
This remove all sound and light.
Right.
Although there's always light in space, so I don't know why they do that.
I think I wrote this down, the specific point that I wanted to make about. Where is it? Damn it. Oh, I didn't write it down. Oh, yes. No, I did. Hachi's shadow self is something that Hachi has struggled to fight, something that he swore to fight his whole life. That's what Hachi calls him, the other Hachi.
Right.
So something that he swore to fight his whole life, that implies that it's been going on for longer than just this short period of time since this episode. And I have a theory about why that happens, or why he may have been struggling with spatial loss disorder for a long time.
Or in layman's terms, self-doubt. Because that's what the internal conflict seems to be.
Well, yeah, but it's also representing the psychological condition that has resurfaced, or perhaps surfaced for the first time, depending on your interpretation.
Right.
Because he only encounters this person when he's in that room. So it is standing in for his spatial loss disorder.
Yes.
I mean, it's also about his self-doubt, because the Shadow Man makes sure to like criticize his mentality, his mind state, and to say that you were always looking for a way out. You know, you really just want to go back down to earth and use this sickness as an excuse. And say to yourself, I'd still be up there if not for my illness.
Right.
Very, very kind of powerful indictment for him to like cut straight to the core of what Hachi may be thinking or feeling. And I think that kind of supports my theory. My theory is that Hachi's dad is dead. Now, I don't know if this contradicts any information that we've been given in this story so far. I mean, maybe his dad is alive and is working somewhere that we've heard about or something like that. But I think there's a series of shots right after the commercial break when he's doing the sensory deprivation test again.
Where you see him as a child.
Yeah, you see him as a child. You see him running alongside the highway with his little toy rocket, which we also get in
which is the outro.
Yes, we get that in the ED. And then you also see him biking alongside kind of at sunset, a more developed highway. And then you see him on his motorcycle going down the road alongside the beach.
Yeah.
And after those 3 shots, we get an image of a rocket ship that is going up into space. And, it's very brightly lit because of the thrusters and everything.
Right.
And at a certain point, the lights start getting brighter and brighter and brighter, and the scene fades out. I think his dad was on that rocket ship, and the brightness of the lights was an explosion. Yeah.
Like Challenger.
Yeah. So I think that explains why he and his brother hate his dad, and especially why they refer to their dad as stupid. Because he was in that accident. Like perhaps he made a mistake, and that was the reason the explosion happened. Right. In the launch sequence somehow.
I think, what is it? The shuttle Challenger was launched in, I don't remember the year, but it was like an O-ring, like a piece of rubber, like this big, failed, and the entire shuttle detonated on launch.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's just like one tiny thing in rocketry goes wrong, everyone dies. With that much, I mean, it's literally a controlled bomb is what a spaceship is.
Yep. Yeah, that's one way of thinking about it, I guess.
And maybe that would explain why seeing just the engine of the new shuttle helped him. Maybe there was something wrong with, or they were using like a new experimental technology that caused his dad's shuttle to explode, and they knew that there was a huge chance of that happening or something.
Wait, why would seeing new technology help him in that case? Wouldn't that make him even more afraid?
No, because maybe they perfected it. Maybe it's the same technology, because they explain specifically like what type of rocket engine it is.
Oh yeah, they go into a whole bunch of detail about particles being accelerated at 600,000 degrees Celsius or something along those lines.
500 million.
Oh, okay, that's a lot.
That is a lot.
I mean, I think that he just seeing the rocket is he's destined to be an astronaut, And so Gigalt says this will help him more than any therapy. If he's a true spaceman, this will snap him right out of it, which it does. So I think all we're supposed to get from that scene really is that Hachi is like, he loves space. That's where he wants to be. That's where he feels
destined
he should
for
be.
Space things.
Yes, indeed. So I think his recovery upon seeing the rocket is a lot less impactful than all of the doubt and all of the psychological unease that he faces prior to that, because that's elaborated on a lot more.
Yeah,
but I did like the way that they wrapped everything up. They kind of segued his final conversation, his seeing the rocket and being like in awe of
all the people who worked on it.
Yeah, the technology itself, the effort that went into creating it, the potential that it represents. That is kind of moved immediately into his goodbye to his shadow self, like all of his demons.
It's just like the people who worked on that probably all dealt with the same thing.
Does the show say that? Does it say something along those lines?
Yeah, he does.
Okay.
He says it to his shadow self. He basically says, just like everyone who worked on this shuttle probably dealt with the exact same thing. I don't remember what his rationalization is for being like, they all dealt with this, so that means I'll be fine. Maybe that's like what I don't exactly remember what he said.
Yeah, I mean, his miraculous recovery kind of defies the show's labeling of his issue as like a real psychological problem. It just seems to me like he snaps out of it too fast. But it does segue his viewing of the rocket engine and his goodbye to Spaceman Hachi,
right,
in the suit, and his passing of the test, and Tanabe like running in and congratulating him. All those things are woven together very nicely, just over the course of a few minutes at the end.
I remember Gigalt does specifically say that it's just like it's probably all in his head. It's just like he doesn't think he actually has a disorder. He's just in his own head. This will snap him out of it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how true that is, but the thing is that, the condition is being portrayed fairly authentically, I think. I really liked like the ringing of the ears, and especially the moment when he like puts his hand up against something that he feels is solid and falls through the wall. You remember that bit when he
Yeah.
kind of disappears through that little black...
But he was leaning against the wall in the room anyways.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a debate in real life, right? Hachi even says at one point in this episode, they'll call anything a disease,
Yeah.
Like how much of it is real, how much of it is imagined or is just labeled as something by the medical community, and then we all kind of fall in line behind that.
Recently, there's a medical body in Europe that just categorized excessive gaming as a disorder.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Well, then
they'll call anything a disease these
You're
days.
all disordered up, I'm afraid.
That's what it is. They will call anything a disease to an extent, but that doesn't make the challenges that people face with that diagnosis any less real.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely real. And that was why I especially appreciated the physical signs that something was wrong that we got, like the ringing in his ears, like the loss of balance,
and him
like the
smashing
sweating.
his head into a wall.
Yeah, the sweating as well, and the breath, the breathing. We even, when he's first being monitored, his heart rate spikes and et cetera, et cetera.
Right, and he like collapses.
Yeah. So I'd say it's a real condition. How they choose to define it.
No, go ahead.
What? How they choose to define it. What the symptoms are according to the disease maker, label.
The medical community. Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually a panel.
Yeah, that humans are deciding that. It's not as though the DSM-5 is handed down by God.
Right.
So that's an ongoing debate. But he was definitely ill. Whether it's a chronic thing for him, whether this was the first case, whether it was as serious a problem as the doctors speculated, or whether it was more in his head as Gigalt thought. That's all. I mean, I think it's to the show's credit that you can read it a bunch of different ways, because that's how sickness exists in real life.
Yeah, there's more than one. It's never just one way. There's more than one way to look at just about anything.
Yeah.
I like this episode. It was.
Sorry.
I don't think I've ever really seen. Well, I mean, I haven't seen that much anime, but I haven't seen many like really deal with stuff like this, with a main character essentially being diagnosed with some sort of mental illness and just being like, "Oh, I'm fine. This is nothing."
But Evangelion. I guess there's no real diagnosis.
There's no like diagnosis like you've got PTSD.
Wait, no,
even though you have PTSD.
Isn't Shinji like diagnosed by a bunch of doctors in one episode or another? But he's still cleared for duty. For a while, he's held and he's not allowed to. Like in that jail cell, when you see the shadows of the chain link stuff all over his head.
I don't remember.
Oh, okay.
I know.
I'm pretty sure he's examined by doctors in the series at some point, but then he's eventually cleared for duty again because they just need him to hop back in the robot because the angels are coming.
Get on the robot. We're all gonna die.
Yeah. This was a more in-depth look, I would say, at Hachi's mental well-being, or physical too.
Yeah, since the brain and the body are so connected.
Literally connected, in fact.
Yeah,
one is inside the other.
Your brain is actually capable of tricking you into believing that you're deaf. It can shut your ears off entirely.
Mm.
If I don't know what triggers it, but apparently there's a way for that to happen.
Okay. Well, I mean, if anime keeps sucking this bad, maybe I'll be able to trick my brain into tricking my ears that I'm deaf, and I won't have to listen to it ever again.
But you can still see it.
Not if I trick my eyes into thinking that I'm blind. Yeah, I'll be the first known case, and we'll have anime to thank. This has
been the cause of blindness.
That could be the title of this episode.
It could,
if I remember. All right, are we good?
I think we're good. Okay. Any other random thoughts? Other animes you've seen?
I'm sick and I want to go to bed.
Then let's do that.
Thanks for listening.
Or you do that, not me. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week when we talk about More cartoons. Have a